Now we're back on golf today. A really cool moment took place yesterday on the LPGA. Brooke Henderson captured the CPKC Women's Open in her home country of Canada, held off her playing partner Minjee Lee by a single shot to capture her second CPKC Women's title. Her first victory in more than 2.5 years, closed with a 4-under par round of 68 at Mississauga Golf and Country Club to finish at 15 under. As you see, it was the 14th career victory on the LPGA Tour and her first since January of 2023. We're joined now by Golf Week senior writer Beth Ann Nichols. Can you describe the impact of a Brooke Henderson win? We've seen, Vicky Mboko win in Canada in tennis. We saw Nick Taylor a couple years ago win the Canadian Open on the PGA Tour. What kind of impact will this have for Canadian golf?
Well, it's massive. I think Brooke Henderson isn't just a top female athlete in Canada. She's one of the most popular athletes, period, male or female. And I think those of us here in the U.S. probably don't appreciate just how big of a superstar she is. And the fact that she was able to end this 2.5-year drought on home soil in Ontario, it's massive. The crowds are always great in Canada, but every time I'm at an LPGA event, no matter where I am in the U.S., there's a Brooke Brigade. There are Canadian flags and shirts and folks who've come out specifically to watch Brooke.
There was another Canadian getting a lot of attention last week as well, Beth Ann. Aphrodite Deng, Canadian amateur. She hung around that leaderboard for quite a while. What do we need to know about her? What does her immediate future look like?
My goodness, she's been on quite the run, winning some really big titles. She's won Nelly's AJGA event. She's won the Mizuho, which of course is hosted by Michelle Wie and has that AJGA component. She's won at Sage Valley, now the U.S. Girls Junior. She's coming up big on big stages. And the fact that we were actually talking earlier in the week, can another 15-year-old win the Canadian Open is just absolutely wild. But, she's had a lot of great experience now playing alongside some of the biggest names in the game, and of course has Brooke Henderson to look up to as someone who petitioned the LPGA at age 17 to play, was denied, and went ahead and Monday qualified and won at the age of 17 in Portland. So a great role model there in Brooke.
These are big stories, Deng and Brooke Henderson, but the stage, as big as you described, somewhat obscured by a Tommy Fleetwood winning the FedEx Cup. Does the LPGA need to look at different ways to better showcase these storylines, whether it's a different day of the week starting their tournament or different time starts? Because these are huge stories. But listen, if a tree falls in the forest and someone's not here to hear it, was the sound made? Beth Ann.
No, 100%. I mean, this is an ongoing problem with the LPGA, and of course it's something that's going to be top of mind for Craig Kessler. But this isn't an overnight fix. With the LPGA, of course would like to have longer running partnerships, but as title sponsors shift and venues change, there aren't very many long-standing things on the LPGA. So getting on the calendar as early as possible and putting a flag in the dirt that this is my spot, I certainly think is important. But even, incremental changes, like even if they had just finished an hour earlier, I think would have helped. But, it's certainly something that's going to be a long-term mission for the new commissioner. But I think he can make some small changes quickly, as we saw, to be able to watch, Lottie Woad, of course, moving that to CNBC was a big win.
There are a lot of challenges that Craig Kessler faces as the commissioner, and certainly this schedule seems to be one of them, Beth Ann, just even in the cadence of it, because the LPGA Tour, I guess they want to try to be a little more opportunistic, but there's only a couple of events that they're staging in September, and then it actually goes on a 5-week swing through Asia for most of October as well. Is Brian Rowlap, the new tour commissioner, and the PGA Tour has suggested that there might be some tweaking of the schedule there, perhaps a contraction of the schedule. Is there an opportunity coming, you think, for Craig Kessler to be a little bit more opportunistic, even allowing for this context of where the money is and where you have to go find that money?
Yeah, it's trickier for Craig Kessler because, of course, there isn't a long line of folks waiting to throw money at the LPGA. So, you certainly have to honor the folks that have been with you for a long time and make sure that they still feel like they have an important seat at the table. But I will say that as important as the Asian money is for the LPGA, I think it would be great if you could somehow really make the fall Asian swing a true bonus, move it to the end past the CME Group Tour Championship, and instead have a nice, playoff run up, in the domestic schedule where the season, officially ends a little bit earlier in the year, and then you go play some bonus golf in Asia for some big money. Certainly all the Asian players would go home and love to do that, and some top Americans as well. So, just the thought that I know some folks have been kicking around for a few years, to have a nice run up to the CME Group Tour Championship, with the ANA, of course, being one of the best events on schedule already that precedes it. So, I'm sure Craig Kessler has some big ideas, and I look forward to hearing more of what they are.
Well, Beth Ann, the LPGA has had 23 unique winners on tour. How do you digest that stat? Does that speak to the depth of the LPGA Tour, or does that say the LPGA Tour has a star or a lack of stars problem?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's great to see a Brooke Henderson finally get in the winner's circle for the first time in a long time. Same thing with Minjee Lee earlier this year. Of course, she's been going on a tear. But, I've always said the LPGA, needs a dominant star. They need a household name, and not being able to keep up with all these different, winners. I think it's difficult for fans to really, feel like they really know somebody. So, I'd love to see, of course, Nelly Korda had a massive year last year, and to be winless so far in 2025 is head scratching. So I definitely think there are players, Nelly has proven to us last year, and as Lydia has shown us, who have another gear, that even though the tour is as deep as it is, they're just not getting to that gear right now to be able to win multiple titles in a season. Nelly showed us that it can be done. Of course, we saw, a number of top players win multiple times last year, and it's just not happening right now. But of course, not to take away from the Japanese contingents that's come over and really thrown a wrench into everything, practically winning every other week.
Well, the U.S. Women's Senior Open ended over the weekend as well, Beth Ann. How about a shout out to the super seniors and the performance we saw out of the real veterans in that field?
I love this game. I have been a strong proponent for lowering the age from 50 to 45 at the U.S. Senior Women's Open. I still would like to see that happen. However, I love the fact that on Thursday, I'm writing about Aphrodite at 15, leading on the LPGA early in the afternoon. And then later in the evening, I'm writing about Barb Moxis breaking her age, shooting 71, the oldest player in the field at the U.S. Senior Women's Open at 72. She was only one shot back of Annika at that point. She'd go on to break her age again in the third round, shoot another 71, become the oldest player to make the cut. Hollis Stacy, of course, 71 as well. She made the cut, the LPGA Hall of Famer. And then another Hall of Famer, Julie Inkster, finishes runner-up to Becky Morgan. Only two players finished under par for the championship. And to watch Julie hold her grandchildren, especially grandson Jack, who got a lot of airtime there, was just a fantastic reminder of how ageless this game is. And for a tour where we see so many players retire, but well before the age of 40, that there's still so much to look forward to, even if you take a break for a long time.